All right, here we are, round 3. We're jumping in. Oh, man, we're going to have a barn burner here. Actually, we kind of might, because I thought that was something different. But it is Ray Data Vault versus Stained Glass Han. We have Han 1 Blue Force. A deck that kind of made its debut post-Force Throw ban. It was very much hyped. It hasn't, I mean, it's had some decent placements, but has not really, to this point, in my opinion, made its stamp in the way that other archetypes have. But either way, we're going to see how this plays out. To me, the big boogeyman of this format is not the pilots. It's not the aggro decks. It's not even Han 2. It is, in fact, Ray Data Vault, because this is where fun goes to die. I will say that I would love to play Ray, because I find that deck to be my favorite archetype. Whoop, I'm trying to close chat and I hit the wrong button. I find that archetype to be my favorite. What is that? Whatever ruins your opponent's fun. Whatever archetype is going to cause the most unfun for your opponent, that's the deck I want to play. And I think Ray does exactly that. We were talking about it earlier with one of the other matches we were watching, that I think that Ray is one of those decks where you realize you've lost 2 turns afterwards, and then it's just, well, maybe I can get there. And it's like, no, you really can't. You will never get there. And you do need to recognize that in a lot of scenarios where you got to give up game 1. Don't drag that game 1 out, because you may never finish the other games. Now, I will say, going beyond the skipping of turn 1 by the Ray player, but we have a Jedi lightsaber that just got slammed onto BIATL. That is a play we haven't seen in a while. Problem I have with Ray is that if you lose game 1, you're probably not going to have time to win game 2 and 3. But that's the thing, is you need to, on both sides of the equation, you need to determine how you are going to win or lose the game. And it really is going to be evident, especially for the Ray player, because obviously they're probably going to have more reps with Ray than people are into Ray. Certainly, if you don't have a testing partner who is planning on playing Ray, there are complex decisions that are going to have to happen, because the math gets really weird of, oh, well, are they running Figure of Unity or Unity of Purpose so that you have that wombo? Are we just setting up for Bo? Do you have 1 billion restore cards? How does the restore math work out? Queen Amidala, a good addition here. But there's a variety of things that can play in. And as a result, if you aren't properly assessing the board state, like we watched a game earlier where the Ray won in 2 games. I think there were 4 minutes left in the round, but it was readily apparent that the Han 1 yellow player was out of the game. They had no chance to win in either game, probably by like turn 3, honestly. But there was still a lot of game left to play, so you keep going. But on turn 87, just scoop and go to the next one. In game 2, I get it, because your life is on the line for the round. But in game 1, you might as well go to sideboarding and hope. And I hope you built your sideboard properly. So we're putting 5 into the BIATL. Amidala's still alive, still invulnerable. Thanks to the Spy. Internet Warrior, making that a little more difficult. We can get the Ray deploy this turn, but you kind of want to dirtle that so that you don't get clobbered by the BIATL. Additionally, the Han deploy can happen this turn, so you have to be scared of the threat of the Han unit, which we did see in the Han player's hand. We're going to get an Akbar coming down to shoot BIATL for 2. Clears out the Jedi. That classic rivalry from Star Wars canon, BIATL versus Admiral Akbar. He was mere Lieutenant Akbar back then, when the rivalry for the ages had first began. First breached the stars. The sunrise of a cruel and bloody hatred between these 2 people. Captain Rex also in hand, one of the big additions for these hero decks. It's funny, we looked at the top 8 earlier, Star Wars Episode 3.5, exactly. You know, these are the stories that need to be told. I don't know why, but the chin on the Han playmat looked really weird for a second. The way his bottom lip and chin looked It looked like a weird AI picture for a second where he had two mouths. Just like I looked at it real quick. That was strange. Anyway, we looked at the top 8 earlier from pool 1, and it was oops, all hero. It was literally 8 out of 8 decks were hero, which is kind of funny. We did have a diversity of archetypes for the most part. Like we had some aggro, we had some mid-range. Ray is now verging into the control deck category in my mind because there is a fair amount of removal. A lot of it is tied to 187 creatures such as Akbar and of course Bo-Katan. There's still Luke lurking, but Bo-Katan is the new girl on the block and she is a menace. Han coming out, getting the ramp, we get the Rex. I assume those Imperial credit things are supposed to be, they look like, is there like there has to be a Star Wars Monopoly, but are those Star Wars Monopoly tokens? That's a Power of the Dark Side. Okay, yeah, we got Anakin. I had to think for a second. I was like, wait a minute, what are we doing? Presumably they are there, those credit tokens are there to track resources that need to be destroyed. I still think the coolest one I've seen was the discard cards, which we saw on stream earlier and yesterday, but feels like a very bad time to be villainy. It might be. I don't know. We just watched Wat Tombor cook somebody, but it was also another villain. So they're taking themselves out. All right. Akbar finishes off Han. Another classic scene. I have had people tell me at locals that they, more casual players that like they play this game so that they can, talk about Star Wars and, recreate Star Wars scenes and stuff. And I really want to know their opinion on some of these silly interactions where it's just like, is this really what you're hoping for? Love those discard cards. They were pretty sweet. It's a great idea. I thought that was a great idea for Han. And I mentioned it then that I think it's also, because it's such a cool, unique idea, that it is a good way for your opponent to also be consciously aware. Like those credit tokens that are there, will somebody notice? Yeah, sure. You're absolutely going to track and grok what's happening with that. However, it's not as readily apparent. Like the discard cards just stick out more, and they stick out in your mind more, in my opinion. But either way, we get Kelleran coming down, fishing out what we hope to be an answer if you're the Rey player. It is a R2-D2. Definitely what you were looking for. I mean, in this particular situation, I don't know that there's much more you could ask for than 1-cost R2-D2 from Spark of Rebellion. Yeah, that's about it. They say discard. They do say discard on them, in fact. That is a Fat Falcon, as opposed to Fast Falcon or Clown Car Falcon. Are there more Han Solos and Falcons than there are Lukes and Vaders? Obviously not Luke and Vader combined, but are there more Luke Skywalkers than there are Han Solos? I don't think so, right? There might be more Millennium Falcons than there are Darth Vaders. Actually, no. I think there's... Whoop, I hit the mic. I think there's 4 Vaders now, thanks to the Battle of Hoth. 6 Hans, 6 Lukes. There's 6 Lukes. There's 2 leaders. The blue one, the green one, the hero, the like plain hero one. What's the 6th one? 7 Lukes? I'm missing 2, apparently. Oh, there's a Luke and a Han in there, too. Well, okay, so that keeps it at parity, though. Other than Hoth Lieutenant, and maybe like Ozzel. I couldn't tell you another card in the thing. Home 1. What do we got? We got Akbar. That's going to snipe the old Rex. No, it's not. R2 is going to have to crash in. 3 leaders, set 1 Luke, pilot Luke, Luke set 5. Luke set 5. Oh, units. I thought you were saying Luke. Never mind. For a second, I thought you were saying like there was a set 5 Luke leader, and I'm like, man, what did I forget? Yeah, the unit, the Luke, Death Star Luke. I just watched Obi-Wan die Luke. Rey taking 1 billion damage. Deploy already happened. We do have restore from Akbar, and we have restore from Home 1. The question is, can you stabilize from here? A lot of resources available to Han. We have Han unit. That's also a very big boy. The weekly play Han unit, which is from Galactic Championship. Yeah, I think there's more Han cards than there are Luke cards, which is hilarious. No more Han leaders, please stop. Every Han leader has been good. And what's funny is post-rotation, I don't think Han 4 is going to go away. Like, we're still going to see Han 4. It's still going to be lurking. I don't know if it's going to be great, but it's certainly going to be playable. That is absolutely certain. So we're going to clear out the Falcon. This logically makes sense. We both have, the entire economy going as far as resources. We're at 16, so not really in striking distance. Even if you say hot shot into base, there's a lot of things Rey can do to kind of rain on your parade. Looks like we got a Captain Typho and a bunch of other cards I can't quite make out. Leaving the resources up, this is weird because it's a hero versus hero battle. Meaning, and they're both blue. So there are Lukes from both players. And we're on turn infinite. So it's kind of like, who's going to Luke first and then lose this exchange ultimately? Because then you end up in this weird spot of, well, I Luked first, killed a guy. Then you Luke to kill my Luke, and you still retain one. Yes, the Luke won't 1-for-1 immediately. You got to do some other hoops, but that's the general idea. And then you end up with this 6/7 that is difficult to deal with. It's easier to deal with now thanks to Rex. 7/7s are pretty good at killing 6/7s, at least the last I checked. I know this is verging on rocket science, but I think we can manage it. Captain Typho. Every time I hear his name, the first thing I think is typhoid. Careful with the 6/7 talk. Oh no, you summoned it. You've summoned it. Honest to God, I did not register that until you said it. Yeah. So here, you want to ruin your day? Go look at the Padme showcase, the new Padme showcase, and tell me what comes to mind when you look at the Padme showcase. I'll wait. Go ahead. Pause the stream. I'll wait. All right, we do have a Sentinel. We do have a tech, a buffed up tech. If I am Rey, I don't feel too terrible about this. We'll have to see how our Han 1 player takes this. You are able to clear out the Typho. For freezies. We are going to heal. You still have to find a way to deal with a big ol' 7/7 and a 6/6. But you have 1 billion resources. We are now in that weird Luke exchange. When there was a window when the Rex was played that Rey had to try and kill something and then not fear for a Luke. But right now, it's been so many turns. Clearly, the board state is set up for these sort of things. You have to be fearing the Luke. Looks like we're going to get our own Rex. And even this is not great because you could trade Rexes and then, as the Han player, Luke the home 1. Hell, you could just Luke the home 1 and then trade Rexes if you wanted to. And in fact, that's exactly what we're going to see. Luke coming down. That cleans up space. You have 4 resources as Ray. Going to go out on a limb and assume that there's a Fell the Dragon in there. We're probably not smuggling anything this turn. I don't know what you'd smuggle for 2. It wouldn't matter. Okay, we are smuggling. We're going to smuggle a random idiot. I don't know if Han just signaled that they claimed. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Oh, excuse me. So you claim there because although you could crash the Rexes, you'd rather have initiative here because now the Rex Sentinel is disabled. The only problem is, again, Rey wants to play their own Luke. Yep, there you go. There's the Padme showcase. I told you. I told you. Bo-Katan. That will power down a lot of things after we saw the hotshot hit the Han. But it's not going to kill anything immediately. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 resources for Han. If they have their own Fell, that would be backbreaking and probably game. We're at 19. Even multiple other guns are probably not going to do it. The saving grace for Han here is that Rey can't really... You got 2 resources. What are you doing that's going to meaningfully impact the game state from 2 resources? Odds are Han will be able to claim. Your guys are large again. But Bo, I think, is a base 8/8, so the Han can clear it. You kind of have to get initiative if you are the Rey player, I think. Unless you have some way to kill something so that the bow is larger. You are correct. That 100% was everywhere when it came out. I'm going to need to get something to eat after this. Maybe some more water. I'm fading. Takes more out of you than you might think just to sit here talking all the time. All right, so we have a Rival's Fall to eliminate the bow before any experience was given out. This seems real bad for that Rey player. We will get the removal here on Rex, at least. I think that was Rex. Mina getting added to the board. Something that does kind of... I get from a designer perspective with how SWU is structured physically. I think about this a lot as an amateur game designer. Like, physical real estate and physical presence on the board, like cards that stay in play and things, tokens, counters, dice, whatever, is important. Because if you look at a SWU board, it is not uncommon to have things like you need to stack things in multiple rows and not when, oh, well, I have 80 tie tokens, so of course I have to. It's like 4 guys is not a lot. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot, kind of, but it's not physically a lot. It should not require 2 rows like this, but because of the ground space divide and the requirement that the bases and leaders stay on the table, it makes things awkward sometimes. It's kind of a silly thing to get worked up about, but it is kind of annoying. And I notice this as somebody who's played Vader, and it's like, yeah, sometimes I run out of space on the board, but I watch other games like we're doing now, and I'm looking at this and going, there's just like a lot of stuff happening, but at the same time, there's not that much stuff happening. So we're just trying to stay alive here. We do get the Luke coming down. That can kill the Luke. No, we're killing the Falcon. Yeah, that makes sense. Village People is keeping us around. Fell means that Luke is not going to get online. I stopped playing Rex IRL because of the token buff tracking. What? You mean new Rex? Oh, you mean do you mean like set whatever Rex? Set 3 Rex, the leader. Because if you mean the leader, like I kind of get it. There is a level, and yeah, so from a game design perspective, it is something that, like, on one hand, you do cut off a lot of design space if you say, I'm never going to do like floating buff things or stuff like that, because it does introduce a level of complexity. Like, how many games have you played where it's, oh, well, this thing has these 3 buffs and these 4 debuffs, and then you're doing this number of damage, but then it prevents this damage, and like just manually working through all those things is a pain in the nuts. And it's not like a super fun thing to do. It's just bookkeeping. And I try to avoid those in my own designs. And I think a lot of games do try to do that as well. But there is a limitation. Like, at a certain point, you don't need those effects, but it is cutting off like this whole area of potential designs if you don't include those things. However, it is an annoyance, and there are elements that are related to the game, like the physical things on the table and how many things are there to track and how many things to remember and how much physical space they take up, that people don't realize even bother them until someone points it out. Like, you could have a nagging feeling of, in the back of your head, oh, well, something's like, I'm not happy about this and I don't know why, but it could be this. And it's just kind of irritating you about the design and the way the gameplay loop works, because you end up with these board states where it's 90 things to track and you have to figure it out every time one slight thing changes. And they are designs that are probably fine. Not probably, they are fine in a digital card game, because the computer handles all that crap. But in a physical meat space, it's a problem. And I know this kind of got sidetracked given that we were originally talking about physical things on the board, but it is, it is what it is. All of this just to fill space as we get the renowned dignitaries, or renowned whatever the hell they're called. I've had a few Mon Mothma players play that and heal for like 30. It didn't matter, but it was funny. How do we go from, like, look, I understand these are 2 tier 1 decks. I do not fault anyone for playing any deck they happen to enjoy. But this is what I picture FFG wants as the future. And this seems miserable to me. And how do we go from like how cool Wat Tambor is? And even if Wat Tambor was a standing tier 1 deck, It feels like that is just dramatically more interesting than whatever Ray is doing. Like, I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but it definitely feels that way to me. It feels like whatever Ray is doing is not, the juice is not worth the squeeze. We're desperately clinging to life at 30 health or around 30 health for like the last 84 years. If Ray manages to win this game, I mean, I don't think it's out of reach for Ray. They've only played, what, one Luke so far? They played one Bo-Katan. They have like a million other shitters that will X for one because they'll, you know, like an Akbar right now comes down and kills the Luke. And then you got to find another way to heal. Okay, so we're going to go home one. We're on resource count infinite. Or that was a tech? It's a little difficult because of the way it's structured with the cards going off the top, but there is a tech up there. We got double village people, which is actually going to be difficult for the Han player to get through. I don't think these lists run Emphas Nest, either for the bounce or the Saboteur. I'm not sure there's any Saboteur in this deck. You certainly can't, like, I guess a Fast Falcon could come in. The thing about playing so we were talking about the round timer before. We're under 30 minutes in the round. Just saying. Additionally, you have to be cautious as the Han player here, or any deck in the Han player's position, where it's like, I'm so close to closing this out, that you don't overextend, because then you end up throwing an eminently winnable game, and then you'll never finish the match. Like, it's just not going to happen. I think this matchup is going to go into these sort of turns every single time. I have no idea how many resources are available for the Ray player, because there's like a billion. Dignitaries clean up the Internet Warrior. There is only a village people standing between. Ooh, it's a Judge promo tech. Sick. Our Han player just drew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards. Congratulations. Technically 12 if you count the 3 tapped ones. We do get a restore off of that, down to 29. The tide is turning. I don't know. We're actually going to trade with the Luke. Oh, they didn't already do the restore, so okay, we're down even further. Yeah, because you get the home one restore as well. So what are we doing here? We're smuggling Sherrit. Does Han have the Force? I'm assuming that's what the silver token is. They had, I don't. Would have used it on the Internet Warrior. Probably got it back. I lost track. We are going to claim. We're out of Fast Falcon kill range, so. Is this don't call it a comeback territory? Don't call it a comeback. We've always been here. We were joking about it earlier, and Tata was joking about it yesterday on stream that, like, in the team event, Tata's won every game one. Don't know how the matches go because I've only played one game around. Like, and it's funny because some games do the draw issue and dealing with like long games and things like that is not a thing exclusive to Star Wars. It's common in a lot of games. Like Pokemon historically has had, people with 4 or 5 draws in large events, unintentional draws, sometimes intentional, sometimes stalling to get the draw. So an intentional, unintentional draw. Games like Flesh and Blood only play a single game, which is kind of bonkers when you think about it. I don't know what happens if they draw, because I know there's some other games that also, Yu-Gi-Oh! Now notably does the double loss thing. And I do think that it would be better to have a resolution of like, even if it's damage on base, which is not what card was, it was Anakin. Finally, an Anakin hits the board. I think I'd rather have a resolution of like, you have more damage on base, or like the differential between your starting health and the damage on base, whatever. That causes the win or loss. And yes, it would favor some decks over others, but even if it's not that, find a solution. And no matter what resolution path you choose, draws, double losses, some kind of tiebreaker, it will influence how people play and it will influence how decks are built. It doesn't matter because you are creating rules, and therefore the rules dictate, the tournament structure rules we're talking about, how decks are constructed and how play patterns are conducted. Just pick one. It doesn't matter. Harder to draw and fab several tiebreakers. Well, I mean like the individual game, unless you mean the tiebreakers of like how the game is resolved. In which case, I don't know. I'm not that familiar with Flesh and Blood. It's a game I'd like to get into, but as soon as somebody told me, yeah, the rounds are an hour and it's a single game, I'm like, nope, not interested. Like my wife and I don't play card games together a lot anymore. Looks like we got a hot shot onto a Han, and that is the dub. The marathon game. But yeah, my wife and I don't play card games together much anymore just because real life timing. That was a slog. Yeah, that's how it works. And honestly, it seemed like it was not out of the realm of possibility for Ray to win that game. Was there a Judge promo Enfys Nest? There was. I didn't know that. But yeah, since we don't get to play very often, like we will play some card games, but it's kind of rare. I can't justify playing Flesh and Blood where a game could take an hour. In fact, the entire premise of Flesh and Blood, the way it's structured, and this is not to crap on another game, I think it's very interesting, but a quick anecdote, if you played the WoW TCG and you played in 2011, there was a deck called Bunnies that was invented by Tim Batow and his team that kind of circumvented, it did what you don't want combo decks to do. It kind of circumvented and played the game in a way that wasn't really how the game was meant to be played. I don't need to go into the specifics of the combo. Basically, it would go infinite, create an infinite amount of 1/1 tokens, and then kill you. Variety of different ways. And the method with which it did it was, for most intents and purposes, non-interactable. Once it started going, the only way that the combo would fail is if somebody screwed up. And part of the combo was revealing cards from the top of your deck and then choosing one and putting the rest on the bottom in a specific order. You can see where this is starting to get closer and closer to fab. And as a result, you would be forced to track the order in which the cards came out, because as you continued to trigger these effects, you would need to know, well, is my next card this or is it this? And what is the 4th card down and the 5th card down and the 6th card, etc. As part of that, we watch the players who are piloting it literally require graph paper in order to play the deck properly. I don't think most people want that experience when they sit down to play a card game. Now, I understand Fab doesn't allow notes, or at least I was told that, which I also think is insane. But it is baked into the game, and like that is part of the intent. And like all of these things are just a big turnoff for me personally. It checks all the boxes for like, nah, not that interested, unfortunately, because I think there's a lot of things about that game to like. I think there's like virtually everything else about that game sounds cool. Just those parts sound miserable, but that's neither here nor there. We're talking about Star Wars. At this rate, I'm going to lose my voice again for PAX, like I did last year. All right, shades of game one. We have a BIATL with a Jedi lightsaber. And we have a debate here for R2. We're actually going to go Populist Advisor. Going to go base. Claim. Interesting. Are you going to fell this? What is your... So, 2 resources unused. No Ray activation. No R2 swing. And the answer is, in fact, fell the dragon. The response? Chirrut. All right, so Han deploy turn. We don't have the Ray to match this time because there wasn't a resupply. I mean, you could play resupply this turn, but it's going to get real clunky real fast. So I think we have Clown Car Falcon, Internet Warrior. They shove the rest of the cards off screen, so I can't see them. Some Judge promo thing? And maybe their own fell? That looks like an Ezra that just got resourced. Seems like we got a pass from our Ray pilot. Pass again? It's very interesting. I mean, you can't pass forever. Because if you pass here, the Han player should just claim. Now, I'm assuming those are passes because I did not see any motion towards the initiative token, and that would also just be really bad if you just straight up claimed 5 open resources and nothing. Dude, what is happening? Queen Amidala. Was this all to just avoid, like, a Han coming down? That was a very strange turn. Notably did not have the Force after the Internet Warrior. Actually, no, you never had the Force. No, you did, because you punched with the BIATL. So they didn't use the Force. There it is. Okay. Sorry. The Force token was blending into the playmat, so I didn't see it. Point being is that attacking to put damage on Chirrut wouldn't have happened because they could just reduce the attack, and putting 1 damage on him is kind of meaningless. All right, resource 6 turns, soon to be 7 resources. No Sentinels. So we have a Fell the Dragon to eliminate Queen Amidala. Makes sense. Cannot protect with the bodyguards there. So we have Akbar to do infinite damage to Chirrut. It's actually only 5, otherwise maybe they would have sniped the Han. You got to take what you can get. The Han will die this turn, and because they led with Fell, or I have to imagine the Han will die this turn, and because they led with Fell, that means that you are not able to really do as powerful play this turn. Now, the thing here is, okay, we get a Sentinel to protect, because otherwise, If the Ray crashes into Han, you're only going to have 3 health remaining. That means that the Internet Warrior can clean it up the next turn, because you're not going to get to it this turn. However, we are going to be moving into yield Luke Skywalker turn next turn, and starting Resource 7 as blue hero with like a million guys in play is a good position. However, 14 and a half minutes left in this round. If our Ray player wins this, I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell that they get game 3 completed. Like, there's just no chance. Which I think, based on the Ray player's hand, I can understand why they thought they still had a chance in game 1, but as we were discussing at the top, I think you really need to know, like, am I actually in this game? Or am I comfortable just accepting a draw? I think that's one of the biggest challenges playing one of these decks is just, you have to go into every round with the thought, what if I draw? And I don't think the players were necessarily playing at a slow pace. I don't think they were, taking an exorbitant amount of time thinking about their decisions. The reality is just that it's a complex matchup. There's a billion restore cards, and it's what happens. I think that's a Depa. Yep. Murders the village people. I would say that's a classic scene from the movies, but it's probably a classic scene from the Clone Wars cartoon, right? Because that's before all the Jedi got murked. Yeah, the Jedi just deploying and then slaughtering all the local villagers. That seems like a very Jedi thing. Interestingly, this Han has survived dramatically longer than I expected it to, namely 1 turn. But the Ray's going to go in. The restore is on. The pressure is slowly building against our Han player. And we got spies getting buffed up. And there's the Luke. Luke is going to remove Depa. And this is a position where our Han player maybe has one more draw step before the door closes on this. It's going to be this turn, and then you get to draw, and then you need to make a decision right then, because there are 12 minutes left in this round, and it does not look good for you. So, same decision. Are we going for the draw? Are we going for the win? What is the answer here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 resources. Didn't resource to 8, it looks like. Interesting. Han gets in. That will get you to 8. We're going to kill off R2. Sure. I guess. I mean, you're at 21, thanks to Luke's swing. There isn't going to be a lot of surprise damage, but you know damn well what's going to happen. We're going to power down something with Anakin. I think there's... Oh, we do have 2? What villain card did we get earlier? And now the bombs are just hitting back to back to back. Like, I don't know... Like, you have to claim here as the Han player, I think. And I don't have any idea what you can draw that can get you out of this. If our Han player looks through their resources, untaps everything, thinks, and then concedes, I'm going to get a little upset because you're wasting like a solid 2 minutes doing nothing. If your plan is to try and not have a draw, okay, so we have a Rex. We at least have something. It is possible that you just crash those and now all your stuff can come through again. Yeah, we're just picking them up. So that game lasted 9 minutes, I want to say. I think we started at 18 minutes left in the round, somewhere around there. I could be wrong. So it is possible for this to conclude within time. I just think it is unlikely. And there's a few different reasons for that. One is that the matchup. Two is that if the players are aware of the timer, play might slow down, depending on your particular board state. And not even necessarily like I'm specifically playing for a draw because I'm losing. It could just be I am losing and I need to think more, and therefore my play slows down. Not necessarily because somebody is consciously thinking, oh, I'm playing for a draw. But there's 8 minutes. It is entirely possible to play an entire game of the Star Wars Unlimited collectible card game in that time frame. I don't know if it's a collectible card game, actually. It might be a tradable card game. I don't know what the official title is. So I think CCG is the one that's copywritten. That's a word. Copyrighted. Tried to say multiple things at once. This is the third game where we're getting the BIATL. Are we going to get the Jedi lightsaber? Holy crap, 3 games in a row. Akbar. Actually going to kill the R2. Deciding that the damage on base was not worth it. This kind of makes sense? Question mark. And we do, in fact, have the Force. And we get the Fell. This is shades of game 2. Chirrut, I mean, I know everybody shuffled quickly, but like, come on. Captain Typho. Get some counters. We got a Han. Players are playing quickly. They are trying to make every effort to complete this game. We don't even need to disclose. No damage has been done. Did the Rey player claim? See, that's interesting. I guess if you pass, like they deploy Han, you pass so that you could then run the Akbar in. There's a chance they just claim. But then you get, I feel like you should have passed there. Unless I missed the sequencing on this. Yeah, the Chirrut is a problem because they 100% thought they could just get that Han. 100% thought that was happening. And unfortunately, the Chirrut is going to make it extremely awkward for that Rey to deploy because if there's another Han, this game might be over. Did you pass or did we claim? So there is a gun in there. Anakin to finish off the Akbar. Yeah, I guess the chariot would have prevented the Akbar punch anyway on that turn. So both of us missed it. So Ray is in danger from anything on the board. And unfortunately, that chariot is just going to be a nightmare to get through. I'm not sure. Okay, we're going to trade leaders. Interesting. Huh. I would have thought that the Anakin cleaned it up, but Anakin is going to lead to Luke. It's kind of how that works. Didn't really directly lead. I was really just because I was saying Anakin. But the kill is going to lead to a Luke into a Fell, and now we have a juiced up Anakin. Rivals Fall and Fell have been burned by... Or no, it was only the Fell this game, right? I don't see the Rivals Fall down there. That was the other game. Games are starting to run together because it's just like so many turns. All the turns. Home 1. Getting back Akbar to poke Anakin for 1. Lol. That is 8 to base. Claim Vernestra? Yikes. And all of a sudden we're at 27? Internet Warrior? Super Laser Blast out of aspect. Dude, did the Ray player lose this in less than 4 minutes? Speed Swoo did not favor Ray here. You have to assume there's the potential for a gun, too. So that's actually 10 damage being represented. If you don't, like, you kind of need village people here, right? Like, it has to be village people. Captain Typho is a sentinel. It will restore, presumably. However, single attack does clear it. And then you're still looking at 7 damage from base, or 2 base. $26. The heal from Akbar means that you won't die to a surprise strike. I don't know if Han Blue runs those, or if they do, how many copies. All right, blue leader crashes the... So you are vulnerable to... Oh, no, but you get the restore 1 from home 1. So that still puts you out of range of surprise strike, if that was even an option. It's a gun. It's a pew-pew. Lots of resources still up. I assume that was a claim, because you kind of have to. Do we have a Falcon? What are we doing? Resourcing Luke for a Captain Rex. It's got to be village people, or you did. Because you need multiple things. Well, actually, that doesn't even help, because the Jedi lightsaber is going to kill the village people anyway. I was saying that before, and that's not going to do it. Bo-Katan? You're at 31, so Bo-Katan won't do it either. You have a Keller and Beck. You get, like... I don't even know. There's a village people. But the Anakin's going to clear it in 1 action. There's not really much that I think you can do about this one. Eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time. honorably accepts defeat. GG in the marathon game. Good Lord. I thought that Ray would have had a better shot at that, but that looked fairly one-sided, to be honest, for most of it. But GG.